Hey Geeb, how you going?
Good. We're in the garage today. What are we doing?
How did we get here?
Why is it dark?
Whoa!
So we're in the garage today. Must be for a reason, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some important topics to cover today.
Like how we imported these vehicles.
We've seen your comments.
And we will deliver.
There's some burning questions. A lot of people want to know some very specific information, which we're willing to share.
How many were made? How do we import them? How much did they cost?
We'll cover all of that and more in today's episode of
GEEBUS. Ready?
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story of love, of short wheelbases. It's 2020, midway COVID, and my father, he brings home his midlife crisis vehicle, the 1986 MK Patrol. What a beautiful thing it was.
Yeah, so I remember back in 2020, actually it was 2019, I believe he got that, or maybe even earlier, because I was still in Canada. And I got a photo from my parents. Your dad had driven the MK Shorty to our house. And Sasha, our German Shepherd, was in the back of it. I got a photo of our German Shepherd in the back of your dad's MK Shorty. So I think, yeah, that was around 2019. I would have still been in Canada. I was frothing. It looked amazing. I'd never actually seen an MK Shorty before. I didn't know they were a thing. But God, they're a good looking car with the 80s graphics down the side of it.
This was our hook, I guess, Dad's midlife crisis vehicle. He luckily lent it to myself and brothers to take on camper trips, and I think that gave us a good intro into what full driving and camping was, because it just wasn't a thing for me in year 12 and early uni. Like, I just wasn't into, I guess, cars or like four drives like this. And then when he brought it home, I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I begged my dad to let me take it out, and well, I may have broke some stuff on it.
Out it was taken.
It was
Very
taken.
much so.
Yeah.
That was a good time as well, because after seeing your dad take that and clean it up a little bit, you started taking it camping, obviously, with your high school friends. I was obsessed as well. I had to have one. So at this point, I'd come home from Canada and I started my search for an MK short wheelbase. Before we knew it, you're taking out your father's Shorty, I'm taking out mine, and we start camping.
Running duos.
Yeah.
MKs. Yeah.
Nearly every second weekend, just beach trips, Gordon Country, 4 drive parks, to name a few, Genoan Hills, D'Aguilar. Just doing as many tracks as we could, staying away from Glasshouse. We were petrified. That started it, eh?
So I guess, well, the MK, we had that for a year or so, and in a way it kind of introduced us back. I guess it made us so much closer, I guess, now, is because, you came back from Canada and you were just a family friend, but, then this vehicle came along, and then
we
you
became
were like,
so much more.
Yeah, and we started getting
Camping.
closer.
And I never really saw myself, I don't know about you, but when I first came back from Canada, you were driving a twin turbo Mazda. What was that?
It was a Mazda 3 diesel.
Yeah. So I came back from Canada. This guy's daily driving a Mazda. I didn't have a car yet. I was actually looking at 360s, like Nissan 350Zs, Nissan 370Zs. I like cars that go quick. I like bikes that go quick. I never thought that I would like Nissans that go slow, but we're here now. So
I guess we hit that for a year or so, and I guess the 4-drive bug really got me at that point. And like you said, I was daily driving my Mazda, but I really wanted to get into my own vehicle. I looked at it daily in the MK, but not very safe. No airbags. All-round leaf suspension, definitely not comfortable daily in that every day. It had aircon, questionably good on most days. And it was just a very old vehicle. It wouldn't have been very nice to daily drive. So I guess that's when I started my search, and I can remember looking through Marketplace, so many things, Discoveries, single cab, Navaras, just trying to, I wasn't particularly looking at, 80 series or Patrols, just looking for something that was really different. I wanted to be unique. And I guess I found it when one day I was working for Dad's work. We were out having lunch with all his colleagues, and for one reason or another, shore-based patrols came up, and someone brought up that GU shore bases existed. And I had no idea they existed, and it blew my mind. He showed me a photo on his phone, and I was like, no way. No way that exists. For context, my father, he owned many GUs in the past, and I thought they were a really cool vehicle. And then seeing that, it just something switched in my brain, because I was just like, wow, I need it. I need to have it.
And for context, this was around 2020, I'd say, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Would it be a little bit? Yeah, probably 2020.
Yeah. And so, literally that day, I started researching all the import laws. Long story short, our laws suck. They are awful. To be fair, they were even worse back then, but still, it's not good.
Laws, by the way, which were set up to protect Australian manufacturing business. Trying to keep Australians buying Australian-made vehicles back in the day.
For which we do not have any more manufacturing here in Australia.
Rest in peace, Holden.
And Ford.
And Ford.
And Toyota.
Yeah. So it's a bit silly, but 2020, if you know anything about GUs, when they started manufacturing them, they weren't old enough yet to be imported. But
so I guess that's when, so I couldn't just magically import one back in the day. Like, you had to have a reason. You could personally import it. Essentially, you had to live overseas for 12 months, and then you could bring in your personal vehicle. Not going to happen, obviously. 25-year rule, cars to be 25 years old. Obviously, they weren't 25 years old back then. And then you could do it through what was SEVs. So it was the Enthusiast Vehicles Register. Essentially, you could import it through a variety of different criteria. So we're talking, environmental, was it a hybrid system? Was it a K car, little Japanese cars? Mobility, if it was for, disabled people. There was rarity as well. Basically, it had to be a certain, it had to be rare enough for it to be imported, and there was speed. And it had to have a certain horsepower figure for it to be imported. Let's just say the dream of getting a shore-based patrol through any of that criterion was slim. But nonetheless, I still tried. I'd spent many hours gathering brochures, videos.
いよいよオフロードチェック。ここでは2ドアを中心にさまざまなオフロードシーンで走破性をチェック。
Just everything from the Japanese market that I could just prove as evidence that I could provide to the government that it was worth importing. In the end, I decided the only way it could be imported at the time was rarity. Now, we'll reveal that later in the video, but essentially these vehicles were super rare. I discovered they were super rare. However, I found out that it wasn't even rare enough. It meant basically, for my case, that it had to be less than 100 vehicles of the variant of the model, not the actual model, so the Patrol. It had to be the variant, which is the shore base in this case, less than 100 vehicles per year. It's really rare, given in context. That's supercar levels, basically.
How did you start that process with collecting VINs and doing Excel
spreadsheets?
Well,
it was honestly an accident. It was I thought there was multiple auction sites, that you could buy JDM vehicles on, and I found this one. And luckily, this one, I can't remember the name of it, but it had a VIN register built within it. And this was like, wow, this was wild to me. It had everything. It had what transmission it was, what color it was, and, if it had an option, what trim. And, I put the docs together and realized that, I can actually collate all these VINs here and see, how rare these cars are. And, after spending hours and hours on an Excel spreadsheet, plugging it all in, I was blown away by just how rare it was, which we will get into later. But I guess that's how I figured out that the Spirit Type 1, the non-wide body one, was
The rarer.
was the rare one. They made so little. They just weren't popular.
Yeah, it's a labour of love, as
It
some
truly
would say.
was. It was 2 years, many late nights researching.
Blood, sweat, tears,
Yep.
ex-girlfriends.
I'll put up the many brochures I collected. Maybe I'll go into a deeper
Yahoo
video.
auctions, translated websites.
Hiring a Japanese translator, which we'll get into later on what that means.
Sketchy Russian, Japanese part reselling
Yes.
websites, and the
Everything.
rabbit hole goes deep.
Yes. But nonetheless, I still, kept at it. I spent hours and hours collecting VIN numbers for all these JDM short-based patrols to find out that only one variant of these short-based patrols were eligible to be imported under the rarity. That is the Spirit Type 1. It's probably the least desirable version of a shore-based patrol you could want.
It's basically the slim, thick version of our patrol, except without the thick,
Yeah.
just the slim.
It was basically a non-wide body version of the car. And if you've seen any photos of it, I'll probably put them up as you go. They look really
Yeah, it's like a
strange.
DX short
Yeah,
wheelbase.
It's basically a DX short wheelbase, and it looked weird. But I was like, you know what? I'll take it. It's still rare. It fit the rarity criterion. Crazy enough, there was less than 100 vehicles, 100 variants of the Spirit Type 1 made per year, and I was like, you know what, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get at this point. It had been 2 years back and forth with the government at this point, and I was like, I just want one. And I guess I was just really impatient. I didn't want to wait 25 years. So I found one, and I was like, okay, sweet. I'll send the application to the government. I did it. I got it. I got the Spirit Type 1 on the register, on
SEVS register.
On the SEVS register. That means it could be imported, is what I thought. Turns out more bureaucratic processes were just getting started. You can't just casually import a vehicle. You actually need a model report. Now, what's a model report? It's a really, really complicated roadworthy. Essentially, the government has to make you test all the underlying features of the vehicle to make sure it's compliant with ADR, Australian Design Rules. Now, these are really rare cars, but they're not worth much. And unfortunately, model reports cost $10,000 to $20,000 to collate. I asked around, and all the importers have said, give me $10,000 to $20,000 and we'll do it. And at that point, I was like, hell no. So I had to go back to the drawing board. And to be honest, I was kind of happy with this because I didn't really want a non-wide body shore-based patrol. At this point, went back to the drawing board, and I kind of just accepted the fate that I would just have to wait 25 years. So there I was one morning in December. This was probably 6 months till the 25-year rule kicked in for the 97 year.
Doom scrolling the auctions.
Yeah, every day, just every day.
I
every
would just
morning.
get these links from these random Japanese websites with 240 by 240 pixel photos of what maybe looked like a vehicle and maybe it had two doors.
That morning, I was doing my regular doom scrolling while at work on the job and found probably the absolute gem of a find. It was a 1997 Nissan Safari Spirit, blue and gold, shore base. I basically checked the VIN with my now personal list of VINs, and it was probably, it was in the first 3 months of production. Like, it was the really, really early batch, and this blew my mind. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, I would only have to wait 6 months to import this. Like this, I was like, this could be it. This could be my chance, So I called up the good boys over at Iron Chef Imports, and I was like, hey, I want to import this, but, what's it gonna take? Is storage available? And they're like, yep, we can store it for up to a year. And I was like, okay, bus. Then I was like, what's it gonna, if I do this, what are the pictures gonna be like? Is it actually gonna be a decent vehicle? If you've ever dealt with JDM vehicles through the auction system, you would know, it's very hit or miss. In terms of my report, it was 3.5 outside, which looking back now, maybe was a bit lenient.
For the age of the vehicle, I'd say the most you're really ever going to get is a 4.
Yeah.
So 3.5 is not the worst.
And for the interior, it was graded C, so it was average. And to be honest, I actually think it was better than a C when looking at it. But anyway, we got the photos, and it was, I would say, rough. It was really bad clear coat peeling on the bonnet, the roof, parts of the panels. The lower half of the gold was completely faded. All the rubbers have been petrified. In terms of rust, no body rust. Well, there was probably one dash
That
in
we knew
the
of.
wheel arch that we found. But otherwise, rust in the body was okay. Nothing major. But the chassis, there was a little bit of surface rust, but no corrosion, no holes. And I thought, you know what? I probably would have spent time rebuilding it anyway, no matter what the condition was. So I was like, you know what? Let's do a challenge. Let's build this vehicle. I've waited far too long for this, so I was like, let's put a bid on. I put a bid, and I didn't believe in it. I didn't think I was going to get it because I was like, these vehicles are so rare. At this point, I knew how rare they were, and I was like, some chump is going to outbid me. Because these are silent auctions. You can't just casually up your bid higher and higher. So it's only one chance. I put my bid in at 1 million yen and, just prayed, hoped I got it. The importer didn't really have much belief in me. They thought it would just pass in. I was actually at a Christmas party that day, but I was not paying any attention to anyone because I was just anxiously waiting for the auction result. And the importer came back and was like, you got it, you won it. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the thing that I'd been searching for so long was real. It was real, son. Paid up, got the storage ready, and I was like, wow, I'll give that 5 big buses.
Now began from my memory, minimum 6-month wait for it to even get on a boat.
Yes.
That was the longest 6 months of my life as your friend. I can't imagine what it was like for you.
It was a very long 6 months, and if you've ever imported a car, I'm sure you've seen the same. You share the same sentiment. Just checking the auction photos every day, every week, seeing what details you could find. I would wait for another email from the importer saying, oh, it's in the yard ready to be shipped, and then, oh, it's on the boat now. And, you would know about tracking the ship name, seeing where the ship was at.
Mate, the daily just, oh, look, the ship has moved.
Oh
200K.
my God.
It's getting closer.
And it was funny. The ship, it had arrived in the port of Brisbane, and it was so funny because you and I went to Moreton Island that weekend. Yeah, we were on the Moreton Bay Ferry.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. We literally
Sailed past.
We sailed past the car transport, and I was like, damn, my car's literally over there. You just want to.
I remember we were all looking out for it.
Yeah.
In amongst a sea of brand new Chinese EV vehicles.
Just white, grey,
Yeah, you'd think it'd be easy to spot, but we didn't see it. The trip, while we're over in Moreton, anxiously waiting for this return home. And
Yep. Waited for the car to clear port, and back in the day, they were much more lenient in terms of costs. I know you got absolutely
gold
diddled.
pumped.
Gold, absolutely
by
diddled
biosecurity.
By biosecurity. I was okay back then, and it wasn't actually too expensive, but now that's definitely changed.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Yeah, and I got the call Tuesday, midway through my day shift. I literally told my manager, like, hey, can I have lunch now? My car, I need to duck out for an hour. And he was like, yep. Went straight home and saw the car in the truck, and I was like, good. And I just stood there in awe, and just how, mind blowing it was that it was finally here.
Culmination of easily 3 years worth of work, if not more.
Yeah, it definitely felt.
Thousands of conversations, hundreds of hours of daydreaming at the gym, talking about what we'd find and how you'd bring it in and how much you'd pay, and it was here.
It was.
I couldn't believe it.
I took it for a test drive that day while I was still on my lunch break. Drove around the block, thought it was freaking awesome. Parked it up, proceeded to strip it down that night, and started
looked like this
work on
within
it.
about 12 hours. You brought it in. I remember I got some photos on my end. I was losing my absolute goddamn mind. Keep in mind, I've never seen one of these in real life. I know some of you watching may have seen one. I'll tell you what, in 2022, I'll tell you, even to this day, I've seen one other GU shorty that wasn't these. So, you know, mind you, once yours landed in Brisbane on a tilt tray, I'm sure it broke a few necks on its way here.
And then I guess I blew it apart. I stripped it down. That was probably maybe, it was probably 8 months of work. So at that point it wasn't complied. So if you don't know, once you import a vehicle, you can't just register it. You need to get it complied by a verified workshop. I chose not to get it complied by a workshop straight away. I wanted to, you know, get it right, get it perfect. So I took it in, got to work on it straight away, you know, stripped it down, sent the bumpers and the car to get painted. Steps got re-aluminized with a new coating, new rubbers for flares, the steps, bunch of other random stuff.
Which, by the way, unobtained, like,
is now unobtainable.
No longer a thing.
He is now seeing how hard it is now.
I've got flare rubbers coming in 4 different colors, which all are going to be the wrong color, but we'll fix that with some paint. But anyway.
That was, I guess, 8 months of work, and that's where it ended up now.
Just the bare necessities. 3-inch exhaust.
Yeah, I did a custom 3-inch exhaust, just a home job. Dad helped out with it. He did a really good job with the welding. It sounds amazing, looks amazing. Obviously, we mentioned the radiator support. It was even worse than the pictures. It was completely, it was blown out, had to grind, dump a F-ton of oil in there.
Yeah,
so
new metal.
salt can never get back in there again, you know, slight lift off the body stuff to, you know, get all the rust. Did a home job of sanding the chassis down and painting it.
Turned out really good.
That was painful, but it was so worth it. You know, came out really nice, really perfect. And I guess that's where it's at today. It's hasn't really had much else added to it other than it had 265s. I now added 285s. No lift, probably a lift in the future. But I just don't feel the need to add stuff. Like, I just really enjoy it for what it is, you know, and I just really like driving it.
Automotive perfection, some might say.
How can you make something better if it's already perfect?
Amen.
Yeah.
Shout out to insert designer name that worked for Nissan in 1995.
Thank you, Yoshi. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my obsession with 2-door 4-wheel drive sort of began with your father as well, and inadvertently my own father. I know my dad owned a 2-door 70 series. What are they called? I don't know. Land Cruiser people, you guys have got all sorts of model denominations. I'll try and find a photo, probably leaf sprung, I don't know. Anyway, my dad has owned short wheelbase 4-wheel drive. Your dad with the MK, so it was a late model GL steel top. I'm probably a little bit more passionate, maybe personally invested in the 160 series of Patrol. I was in Canada at the time, saw a photo of the MK parked out the front of my parents' house with our dog in the back, and I just thought it was the coolest looking thing ever. I knew when I came home that I needed a 4-wheel drive for myself. I didn't really think / care about it being a 2-door, but that's just the way things went. I came home and started furiously searching online for what we was colloquially term, I think is the word, we colloquially term them MKs in Australia. They're actually a 160 series Patrol, but I had to have one. So, you know, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace. If any of you know anything about looking for uncommon or rare vehicles, it's a passion, labor of love. So it was not easy. Anyway, managed to find a beautiful bronze 160 series Patrol, an MK, so the square headlights, not the round headlights of the early model. It was at a dealership. It was at a dealership called Heavy Duty Motorsports. Just to paint the picture, we've walked in, there's just Harley Davidsons, like pimped out Harley Davidsons everywhere. They've got LS Commodores parked, like, it was just like a dream Australian car yard. Nothing was new, it was all secondhand and it was all highly modified. It was pretty cool. However, there was this absolute darling of an MK Patrol sitting in the corner, covered in dust, absolutely neglected. The bull bar was oxidized. You could just tell it had been sitting outside for a long time. We cracked the doors open, you know, the sound of the door seals sticking to the metal because no one had looked at the car or opened the doors in months. You know, the listings online, the bull bar was chrome. When I saw it in person, it was completely dull. You know, I'm negotiating with the dealer here. He wanted some crazy amount of money. Put the key in, turn the ignition, click, click, click. The battery was dead. Poor thing had just been sitting. Anyway, long story short, Dad and I negotiated, got a bargain on it. I think we picked it up for 11,000. Took it home, cleaned it up, labour of love. 3 years passed, 4 years passed. Many 4-drive trips, many broken necks. You know, conversations at fuel servos. If you're looking for attention from middle-aged men, I mean, get yourself an old 80s and 90s 4-wheel drive. I had that many blokes come up to me. You know, my dad owned one, my brother, my cousin, you know, and it's really good. It brings a smile to my face. Keeping Australian motoring history on the road, you know, is important, I think, as we're seeing just an absolute flood of new vehicles come into the country. It's going to be relying on car enthusiasts like yourself and I to, you know, and the viewer to keep these Australian motoring history on the road, you know, even Japanese motoring history on the road. So anyway, the obsession with short wheelbase vehicles began there with that MK. That thing was an absolute darling, took me everywhere. We went central Queensland with it, you know, all up and down Southeast Queensland coast. Really didn't do much to that car, just kept it on the road. So engine work, it needed a lot of love, paint, you know, rare parts, suspension seats, interior trim, hours and hours and hours of searching for things. Yeah, anyway, 3 years passed, 4 years passed. Absolutely loved that car to death.
But there was something
deeper. Else on the horizon. So
something deeper.
Like Lockie had mentioned, first year or two that I had my MK, he had his dad's MK. So we're going on camping trips together. Both of them, you know, if you're familiar, SD33T, 3-inch exhaust, bombing through tunnels together. It was a ton of fun. We were hooning around together in some old 80s, you know, 4-wheel drives, some short wheelbase 4-wheel drives together. And it was fun. We did lots of camping trips. And as the story developed, you know, Geeb over here, he managed to import a GU short wheelbase. And I got to sit in one and ride passenger in one and drive one. And I became obsessed with also owning one. The problem is owning one is not that straightforward. So I really put it off for a couple of years. We're talking now probably 2024. So fast forward to 2024, I'm still daily driving the MK. I'm taking it away on weekend trips. It's pretty loyal. I loved it, but something else was on the horizon. You know, I really started to become obsessed with the GU platform. Coil springs, quiet interior, electric windows, sound and noise, you know, isolation. Don't get me wrong, you know, I absolutely love old cars. I've grown up in them, but it was my daily, and it was just a lot. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, would probably be the aircon, unfortunately. You know, I'd probably pumped $10,000, $20,000, I don't know, dollars into this car. I loved it. The aircon went in the beginning of summer 2024. We were, you know, it was just before Christmas time. It was starting to get really bloody hot in Queensland. The aircon went. I got some quotes. Custom parts, new system, oh, it can't be done, $1,500 please, you know, it was just a nightmare. So I just sort of got to that point where I was like, look, I'd love to do some bigger trips around Australia. I'd love to see the centre of Australia. I'd love to do Great Ocean Road, long road trips, on and off the dirt. It just wasn't looking practical anymore in the MK, as much as I will miss that car forever. It became bleedingly obvious that I needed to investigate importing my own Y61 GU short wheelbase. So the search began. Now, if looking for an MK or a 160 series shorty in Australia is hard, mate, think again. Looking for a Y61 short wheelbase is just another kettle of fish altogether.
And for that was my next mission. For I was tasked with finding him.
So
it's
worth noting, I mean, throughout the entire period that Geeb over here has owned his Y61 shorty, I've wanted one too. You know, I was looking the entire time. So just to timeline it, I mean, from 2022 to 2024/2025, every day, you know, or every week at least, there was an auction listing or a link or someone in New Zealand that was selling one locally. There was always something that was popping up. You know, we were getting pretty desperate. I mean, 2-3 years had passed at this point of you owning yours and me wanting one of my own. And nothing really perfect had shown up, to be honest. We'd had a couple close calls, but I was pretty picky. It hasn't been mentioned yet, but the blue and gold Y61 is a manual. And look, for whatever reason, I know it's not everyone's kettle of fish, but I'm absolutely obsessed with driving manual. I don't know, if I'm driving a car that I enjoy, I would like it to be a manual. Don't get me wrong, my daily is a Triton. It's a work ute. It's an auto, I don't care. But if I'm going off-roading with my friends and we're going camping and, you know, I don't know, it had to be a manual. So little did we know, that was extremely rare in its own right. So yeah, my criterion for the car that I wanted, unfortunately, was very rare. So it took a solid 2 to 3 years till the right one showed up.
Yes.
And the right one did show up eventually, and it showed up in New Zealand, of all places. Now, New Zealand's import laws, we could make a whole video on that on its own, but they have very relaxed import laws in New Zealand. So a lot of these cars were actually imported to New Zealand right off the factory line. There were short wheelbase GUs that have been in New Zealand since the late 90s. They've been getting them the whole way through. So at any point you could import one to New Zealand. Any of the New Zealand viewers here would know they're quite common over there, I suppose, in a smaller market. So one popped up in New Zealand and it was perfect. It was manual, low kilometers. It was an auction grade of 4C when it left Japan. It had only been in New Zealand for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And yeah, I remember sitting at my desk at work one day. You know, Geeb over here sends me a link, and it's the 250th link that I've ever received from him. So I do the obligatory click and scroll, and I'm looking through these photos, and gee, actually, you know, this thing looks okay. Like, oh my God, there's always something wrong with one of these cars. You have to understand that it was not an option for me to blow mine up like this. I really did not have the space, time, you know, resources, money. Like, it just wasn't an option to rebuild mine over a 6 to 8 month period. Unfortunately, I really did need one that was off the boat, registered, you know, pretty well ready to go. So this one showed up. It was perfect. Well, yeah, good enough, as good as they come. So I started conversing with the lad in New Zealand, with the Kiwi. I video called him about 2 hours after I'd received that listing, and I was back and forth with Lockie going, you know, this might work. I'm going to offer him this amount of money, and maybe if I, you know, sell this and I, you know, put some feet pics on Feet Finder, you know, maybe I could make it happen, because it's a whole process. It's in another country. I don't even know. It's being sold privately. You know, it's being sold privately by another Kiwi. So I don't know if he can even be bothered with dealing with me. It's a lot easier to just sell locally. Someone turns up, gives you a wad of cash, they drive off with the car. You know, I'm proposing to him. He's got to video call me, send me photos. I've got to get rego, plate, VIN numbers, go through an import company, transport, all sorts of things. So very kindly, the gentleman agreed to see this process out with me. Unfortunately, you know, he wanted $20,000 and I only had about 5. So began the process of tidying up my beautiful old MK Patrol and selling it. Went through that whole process, spent many, many, many weekends and many hours just tidying that car up, got it up for sale, got a good price for that car, and was able to take that money and put it straight into the GU. Now, meanwhile, this whole process is going on and I'm selling my own vehicle domestically. I was also dealing with transport companies, Iron Chef, shout out Christian, sold my car, got the funds together, made it work. It was an absolute hair thinning process, we'll say. You know, lots of stress involved, but got it on a boat.
All without my knowledge.
Yeah, so I didn't mention, so thank you, Geeb, for sending me the link, but I don't know what happened. It was a video call with the Kiwi, right? He agreed to sell it to me. I didn't know if I could get the funds. I didn't know if I could import. Like, there was a lot of unknowns. So at this stage, I didn't want to get any hopes up for anyone. So I just started going through this process myself, right? And any questions that came my way, you know, a week later, oh, how did you go with that silver Safari? Oh, you know, I don't know. There's some issues. Just trying to figure out if we can get it on a boat or if I can get the money together. So it really wasn't looking like I could make it work. And then I did make it work. Somewhere in between the transition of not knowing if I could make it work and making it work, I just decided, you know, it would actually be a lot of fun to surprise potentially one of the biggest GU shorty nerds on planet Earth, Mr. Excel spreadsheet over here, with importing my own and just not telling him. So yeah, I mean, I was absolutely so grateful for you helping me scout these cars, you know. I just thought it would be an awesome surprise. So once we started to make it work, I kept my mouth shut, right? You know, all it took was someone outbid me locally, you know. Someone turned up with a wad of cash and
You're
they
lucky
bought it locally.
I'm really gullible because I just believed everything that came out of his
Well,
mouth.
really, it was a real concern of mine, you know, through the whole process. You know, shout out again to the guy that sold it to me in New Zealand and working through this process with me. But throughout the whole process, I was really worried about that. All it took is a local who liked the car, and it was a pretty ripper price, to be honest with you. Australian second-hand four-drive market right now is just, I mean, it's bonkers. It's been bonkers forever, like for the longest time, since COVID. It's getting better now, but it's never really going to return to what it was. So as far as the second-hand four-drive market goes, New Zealand, you guys have it good. The price that they wanted for this over there was very reasonable. I mean, let me put it this way. If I put this up for the price that I paid in New Zealand, in Australia, it would be gone within
a day.
It'd be gone within half an hour. It's ridiculous. So anyway, the surprise was brewing. The car was shipping. My finances were dwindling. My girlfriend was questioning. My parents were worried. There were a lot of things going on. The car was on its way. I was very excited. I mean, I could not keep my eyes off that shipping tracker. I still remember the name of the ship. I mean, mine's not as old as yours now, so it's called the Trans-Future 7. Insert a JPEG of that beautiful, beautiful ship. My car was on the water, and God, it took ages. There's multiple options for shipping a car overseas. If you don't know, there's container freight. There's Ro-Ro, which is roll-on, roll-off. There's direct Ro-Ro and container, and there's indirect Ro-Ro and container. I chose the cheapest, which was indirect roll-on, roll-off, which is great when the deposit, when the withdrawal hits your account. It's awesome, it's cheap, but I waited glued to my screen for, God, I don't know, would have been easily 2 months. Like, it was a long time, maybe, give or take a month. Again, it could have been even longer. Now, eventually it arrived in the Port of Brisbane. I'm a bit of a freak, so I kind of turned up one afternoon in my high-vis work gear in the work ute and standing on the tray, looking over the fence, trying to spot it. I think I turned up twice to no avail. I'd been told the car had arrived. The ship had already left. There was a ton of cars in the yard. I just couldn't see it. Eventually one day I turned up on my motorbike and lo and behold, there it was. Maybe insert photo again, but there it was, sitting there in the yard with a bright orange piece of tape dangling off the mirror. Couldn't quite tell what that was. I found out pretty quickly. It got a biosecurity marker.
So you got get diddle-daddled by biosecurity.
Yeah, I proceeded to get absolutely touched by biosecurity. So that was a exercise. Basically, someone found a bug in the radiator and decided that it was a threat to Australian biosecurity. Which, look, I'm grateful for strict biosecurity laws, but not when they apply to me. So that was a $1,500 exercise where they tarped it, or I don't know. It was horrible. Got it off the docks, so paid many thousands of dollars for import taxes and
it's
GST, import tax, obviously the import fees, compliance and rego, the biosecurity. It's all a very expensive measure.
Clearing the port fees.
Got the car out of the port. This guy doesn't know about it yet, so it's at compliance now. So it's sitting in a workshop at the back of Virginia off Sandgate Road for a week and a half. The whole time, I don't have a four drive anymore or a car. I'm just making up lies as I go, and then, got it out of compliance. God, I can't tell you how amazing that feeling was. Drove it to work that day. Later that day, lined up a gym session with yours truly. Made sure he was inside before me, parked the car up. We did our gym session, and on the way out, lo and behold, there are two short wheelbase GU Nissan Safaris parked right next to each other.
Cue the clip.
What the? Hey, yo. Who is that, dude? No. What? No way. It's got central locking, bro.
Pretty good surprise for me and for him. So now, yeah, cutting to today, basically, I suppose. That's the story, the backstory of how I became so obsessed with them, how I imported one, and now how I own one. So far, there's 3 in the collection, I would say.
We'll tell you about the third one another day.
This guy?
Yes,
Yep.
he is our mysterious third member of the GU short wheelbase crew. But
So
we will tell his story another day.
So now we got Gordon Country coming up this weekend. Marks exactly 12 months since I purchased this vehicle. And you know, in that time, obviously, I've only really had it on Queensland roads since November. Since November, it got complied, basic service. I put a 3-inch exhaust. Unfortunately, they don't make exhaust systems for short wheelbase GUs, so bought a used $200 wagon exhaust. Cleaned it up, chopped it up. Bless your soul, Jesse. Big shout out, mate. He helped me TIG weld it together. Yeah, so had it on the road since November, done the exhaust. I have a marketplace addiction, so I already have wheels and tires. Basic cosmetic tidy up, you know, a bit of a detail. Mechanically, yeah, nothing. I think just some service work, basic maintenance.
And how much did you pay again?
So I want to say, I won't, because we might have to put a screenshot up and I might be wrong. But I'm going to say roughly, I paid about 18,500 Australian dollars for the vehicle in New Zealand. And then the import process, you know, if you're lucky, it can cost you anywhere from 4,000 to 7,000, I'd say, is your window, depending on where it's coming from, what type of freight you're going for, you know, all sorts of things. But unfortunately, mine was a lot closer to 10,000 to import due to the biosecurity issue that I had. You know, there was just some hidden costs that sprung up. So yeah, all in all, I'd probably be looking at just shy of 30,000 Australian dollars for this car on Queensland roads. Now, you know, say what you want, I think it's a pretty good deal. I pretty much stepped directly out of a 1985 MK Patrol directly into a 1998 GU Patrol short wheelbase. So
For me, back then it cost, so I put in 1 million yen as my bid, plus 100,000 for the auction fees, and that was around $13,000 Australian. Obviously, looking at auctions today, they don't go for that cheap these days. Back then, shipping and compliance was a little cheaper back then, so probably 8,000 for, you know, shipping, rego. Had to pay for storage as well. That was probably 1,000 as well. Roughly, by the time it got here, it owed me around 20K, 20 grand. And
registered on the road as it is today.
Yeah, but that didn't account for, you know, getting many panels painted and all the parts that I bought for it. But that was I got a really good cashy deal in for my stuff that got painted, so it wasn't too bad. And the parts didn't cost an arm and a leg back then, so I was relatively lucky back then. So I'd say all up, I'd probably say it's worth. It owes me 23,000 Australian now. So honestly, pretty good. And pretty good for the Ks. No real mechanical issues. Yeah, nothing really.
I mean, for just some pricing context, if anyone is interested in owning a Y61 short wheelbase, I mean, okay, early days before, you'll probably see them a little bit more often now. Again, they'll still be very rare. But you will see them on social media a little bit more now that they've turned 25. But for some pricing context, 2022, very early days.
There was one black short wheelbase. You probably all know of it. It was an automatic Patrol GR. The guy on the Gold Coast who owned it, he sold it for 50 grand to a guy at Mount Isa. I could be getting the story wrong, but he lost his license. He lost his license by speeding in it. Keep in mind, it was a ZD30 automatic, so I'm not sure how he did it. So he then had to sell it to someone else. It's somewhere on the Gold Coast again for 50K. So that was, I guess that has been the benchmark for pricing. And if you keep up to date with, socials, and you can probably see there's a green and gold shore base in Sydney for 62. There's a silver one in Sydney as well for 60 grand.
Yeah.
So
there was a green and gold one that sold recently from Blue Flame Automotive to CSS Touring. Shout out you guys. Look, I think that one went for high 40s.
Yeah. So right now there's not really a market for it. It's all over the place. Like it's what people will pay for them.
Yeah.
So
like anything, people like to whinge when you see any a vehicle that's old going up for a high ticket, right? Like I sold a 1985 MK Patrol for $27,000. The amount of messages and comments that I got on those socials from people saying that I was dreaming was, obviously a lot. All it takes is one guy, and that's what I got. One guy who really loved my car. At the end of the day, you have to understand these cars owe you money very, very quickly. So although you might think you've snagged a deal because you found a GU shorty, for 30 grand, you have to keep in mind that if it needs any level of rust work, paint work, mechanical work, your bill racks up very quickly. $10,000 doesn't get you far in the car world. If you need any major mechanical, like engine work, an engine conversion, 10, 20 grand, like that, it happens very quickly. So it is something to keep in mind. What you're looking at overseas does not translate to what it owes you here. So just because you can see one for sale in New Zealand for 30 grand, doesn't mean that the one that's for sale in Australia here isn't worth 50 grand. It's just, it's like what you said. It's up to what the buyer is willing to pay. The benchmark right now, as Lockie said, early days they were selling for 50K, like pretty much automatically, very quickly too. Anywhere from 40 to 60.
Yeah, I think it's evening out.
60s, I'll be honest, the ones that are sat for a while have been at 60 grand. So, we'll see if they go for that. But that's not why we bought them. I mean, we clearly are, it's not a quick lipstick job and flip them, which I'm sure some people are looking to do. But no, these weren't imported for a flip. These were imported for personal enjoyment. I looked for many years. He looked for many years. Who knows? Good luck on your search. But yeah, like I said, early days, you were able to snag yours for low teens. Like, let's just say 15,000 to 18,000 sort of got his in 2022. Already in 2025, you're looking at 30,000. I'd say bare minimum 30,000 to get one into the country. If you find one cheaper, it's going to need a lot of work and it'll owe you well over 30,000. So just as we begin here in the most important section of this video, production numbers, right? I got to get something off my chest. I see comments, people just think for some reason that the GU Shorty is going to be the new Jimny, right? It's going to be more common than a Commodore. I've literally received that message. You have to understand that the import process is not easy. These cars are going on 30 years old. I just wanted to get off my chest that, yeah, these aren't easy vehicles to find. And certainly the parts are getting harder to find. If you want to bring one in, that's fine. Fixing it up is another whole story, but I'll let Geeb here take the floor. He's got some very juicy numbers for you.
All right, people, this is what we've been leading up to. This is the juicy bit. Let's talk production numbers. Now, obviously, I told you guys how I collated all my VINs to, get a catalog, to, check how rare some of the vehicles were, so it would align with my vision. Obviously, that route didn't go anywhere because, it was obviously too expensive. But, it was a good indicator of just how rare these vehicles were. And I did mention it before, but I wanted to get more evidence at the time to basically tell the government, these vehicles are rare, that what I'm saying, these claims were verified. So I decided to go all the way to the top, to Nissan, Japan. So I went all the way, I hired a Japanese translator and sent multiple emails to multiple different factories, headquarters in Nissan, Japan. Didn't get very far with many of them, but then one email came back that changed everything, I think. It was from the post office in headquarters Nissan, and they gave me exactly what I asked for, which was wild. They gave me exactly how many units they produced for, the Nissan Safari Spirit, Type 1, Type 2, and the Super Spirit, which was Series 2 onwards. So, it blew my mind, and this was the official verification I needed to give to the government to, verify my claims. But obviously, didn't go anywhere. So I've held on to this information for a while. I don't know if many people would know how rare these vehicles are. So before I reveal the numbers, just need to mention some caveats. Number one, these are short wheelbase Y61 models only, not Y60 or 160. Second, these numbers represent the Japanese domestic market only, so they don't include Europe, the Middle East, or Asia. In terms of right-hand drive, the only other market that got these vehicles, so short wheelbase Y61, was the UK. They were called Patrol GR, but they're quite rare there as well, probably even rarer.
Thirdly, New Zealand doesn't count as a market for these cars. Every short wheelbase Safari that's ever existed in New Zealand was imported. New Zealand doesn't have a manufacturing business for vehicles. Their entire market is made up of imports. Hence, their relaxed import laws. They weren't protecting any manufacturing.
Okay, fourthly, I'm going to be honest, my personal collection differs to the official one from Nissan. They're slightly different, but they're still in the same ballpark range. It's nothing crazy. Unfortunately, we're going to have to split it up in terms of taking the official figures from Nissan as all up, but if we want to get into specifics like manual and auto, we'll just have to use my list. Not completely 100% accurate, but like I said, it's not a crazy difference. They're still in the same ballpark. But with that all being said, let's get into it. Okay, so for some context, Series 1 short wheelbase began production in 1997 and ended in mid-1999. They all came with the RD28 power plant, with an option of auto and manual. Okay, so from mid-1999, the Series 2 is released. This comes with cosmetic changes, most notably the grille, some bumper changes, very minor. You could also get a wooden trim interior. That was kind of wild.
Very nice.
This only came with the ZD30 Di, probably the most least...
infamous Nissan powertrain.
Yeah, let's call it that, most infamous powertrain.
Grenade.
Again, came with auto and manual. And this production went on till 2002. From 2003 onwards, there'd be no short wheelbase GUs, so no Series 3s or Series 4s in the Japanese domestic market. They would still market it in places like Europe and the Middle East. But in terms of right-hand drive, this is the last time GUs ever came in a short wheelbase in Japan. So I guess that's the range we're dealing with. We're talking from 1997 to 2002. That is really only 5 years of production. For Series 1, they were known as the Nissan Safari Spirit. These are the vehicles we have now. They would be graded between two grades, Type 1 and Type 2. Type 1 was the least desirable one. It's the one we talked about. It's the non-wide body, has the, it's basically our DX grade, so non-wide body, narrow rims, cloth upholstery, but it wasn't really a true DX poverty spec because it still had power windows, power mirrors, carpet interiors. So it's a strange amalgamation. You could still get a lot of options. Like I've seen a sunroof version and a rear locker version.
And
so it was basically a cheaper, non-wide body version for it. And then we get into Type 2, which is what our vehicles are, the full wide body version. Get a lot of options, sunroof. The cloth was moquette. It was pretty standard trim, as Australia would know it. 0 offset alloys.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. There's no Type 3. There was no leather option. Strangely, you couldn't get leather. So for Type 1, that's your non-wide body, 95 units were produced. That's 49 in manual and 46 in automatic. Turns out that figure is accurate to what my catalog is, so we don't have to do any changes. Getting to Type 2, that's our vehicles. 991 units were produced as specified by Nissan's list, but what I catalogued, I had 977, so it'll be a little inaccurate in terms of transmission options. So in terms of transmissions, for manual, of 991 units, only 260 were manual. And auto was 731. In Japan, they very much favor automatics over there, which is the case. So these are very much the exception, not the norm. So all up, for Series 1, Nissan Safari Spirit, for both Type 1 and Type 2, 1,086 units were produced in short wheelbase. So getting on to Series 2, they basically combined the two specs, so now it's just one trim. You could only get it as one trim. It was basically the same as these vehicles, so like a Type 2. It was known as the Super Spirit. Like I said, came with the ZD30 auto and manual. Again, there is an issue where my catalog is slightly different to Nissan's specified count, but we'll get into that. By my count, they made 538, but by Nissan's count it's 528. So there is a mismatch of 10 cars there. It could be a typo, but not sure. So in terms of transmission, by my count, there's 177 manuals out there and 361 autos.
The moment that you've all been waiting for.
So all up, counting every single JDM short wheelbase Patrol they made, that counts to 1,614 units delivered over 5 years. And if you're interested, here is all the different color codes that they made. Some colors are very much rarer than others. Silver and white were obviously very popular, so sorry to us, very common. Seems like black, red and gold, blue and gold, they seem to be the rarer colors out there, but let's not get hooked on semantics. When I had all this information, it just made me realize, just how crazy rare these cars are.
So, what did we learn from today?
The JDM short wheelbase Patrols are really rare. They're rarer than all these wagons, all these similar JDM short wheelbases, and all these supercars.
But what it really tells us is, obviously, for various economic and global reasons at the time, two-door variants of Patrols were not selling very well. Japan wasn't really keen on them, clearly. A 5-year model run is not a long time. They continued to produce the GU Patrol for international markets in Australia for 2 more series and many versions, lots of models, many years. It was actually still in production till last year, yeah. For the United Emirates.
And to be honest, Nissan weren't doing too hot in Japan. The Safari name was just getting thrashed by Land Cruiser. If you wanted a short wheelbase, people would just pick a Prado or a Pajero, and if they wanted a long wheelbase, they got a 100 series.
And if you wanted a Ute to mount a gun to, you'd get a Land Cruiser.
They got a 70 series. So, why do we tell you all this? Well, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a hope to, have a better appreciation for these vehicles. But I guess deep down, we're like the biggest gatekeepers for these vehicles, and we really want to see them respected. Please do not trash them if you own one.
Maybe it's one big way of just letting you know how rare these vehicles are. If you want one for yourself, there should be a sense of urgency. A number like 1,600 is quite low, and that was 1,600 way before you were born, most likely.
25 years ago.
So
that's 25 years of rust,
crashes.
By the way, there's been so many other countries that have had access to these cars before us.
New Zealand's been picking them off.
Russia is a big importer, so good luck trying to get one back from them. Asia, probably in Indonesia. Canada as well is also taking them. So they were few and far between 5 years ago. They're even fewer now.
For various reasons. That 1,600 is going to be a lot lower today. It's only going to get lower. So, let this video be a sign. If you've been thinking about importing one, you really should go ahead and try and look for one now. They're only going to get more and more expensive. And once this video drops and the number is revealed to the public, let it be known. It's not a big number. And no, they will not be the new Commodore, okay? So you know who you are. Who made that comment.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that big bombshell at the end. Again, we have a mysterious third GU behind us. We would love to tell you more about it in the future, but that's for a future video.
Still cooking.
We're still cooking. Any last words? Yeah,
look, thanks for watching. If you do have any questions, any more questions that we haven't covered in today's video, leave a comment. I'm sure we'll get to them. And yeah, 2 very passionate Nissan nerds here. So hopefully you guys feel the same. And yeah, thanks for watching.
And remember, when in doubt, Geeb out.